Hi guys, it's Kelly Latevola here and I'm back with another video for honeybee stamps. Today we're making another twofer, but I didn't mean to, it's just how it ended up happening. So we are going to be doing some faux watercoloring using stencils. So I have the Poinsettia stencil and then the Because stamps and dies. Now when I first get my stencils, I always put Tombow Mono multi glue on the back because it dries repositionable and then I don't have to tape anything down. So that's why mine's staying so nicely. I'm going to be watercoloring with Distress Oxides. And so there's kind of two ways here that I'm going to show you how you can get specific color in specific places. The first one is if you do not have sponge daubers. If you do not have sponge daubers, you can use just masking tape, masking paper, post-it notes, purple tape, painter's tape, whatever you got. And then you would just need to, this die's pretty intricate for this, I'm not going to lie. But then you would just, cut it up or tear it into smaller pieces so that you're just covering the areas that you need to be covered. So for the flowers on the left-hand side, I'm going to do that. I'm going to just, keep tearing them and placing them down so that just the petals I want color to get on are open and everything else is masked off. And like I said, this is if you don't have sponge daubers. So then I'm going to use just my regular ink blending tool and I'm just going to go in very lightly because I'm not looking to put down a ton of color. I'm just looking to get the outline of the flowers down. Now I'm going to end up putting down the entire stencil, all of the areas of the stencil, but this would also be another way that you could just use specific parts of your stencil if you only wanted like just a flower and a couple of leaves in your background instead of a whole floral background. This would be another way that you could do that. So this is way number one, which is for this particular stencil, the more complicated way to do it. So I'm going to remove these and you're going to see that the picked raspberry oxide ink is only on just those petals. Everything else is still clean. And then I would just go through the whole stencil this way, masking off the flowers when I needed to do the leaves and so on and so forth. But instead I have these little finger daubers, these little sponge finger daubers. And so these are a much easier way to add color in very small areas. And so this will be the way that I do the rest of the entire background. I will link to them. I have this giant set here. I think I have 48 of them, but you don't need a full, like they sell them like in packs of 3s or whatever. So you would just, need maybe a couple for your purposes, unless you use them all the time, then you might want to look into getting a bigger set. But they're kind of a handy tool to just have a couple around in case you, ever need them. I guess not a whole lot of money to invest. You know what I'm saying? So anywho, I'm going to go in and then all of the ones that I want to be flower petals, which is what I'm trying to decide here. Because oftentimes with this stencil, I found that the leaves looked like petals and the petals looked like leaves. And so I'm just trying to make sure that I can get full flowers. You know what I'm saying? And then I'm just going to go through and do the rest of them as I go. I know a lot of times people are very overwhelmed by watercoloring, no-line watercoloring specifically. And this is kind of just a very easy cheat way to get a no-line watercoloring look without having to be stressed about it, because this will give you the guidelines that you need to be able to get a watercolor look that looks like, you just sat down and abstract painted a bunch of these really beautiful flowers and leaves, but it didn't, it wasn't something that you had to freehand, even though it gives the look of freehand watercolor, which I really, really love. I think it's beautiful. I used mustard seed, and just a heads up on that, it's a very strong yellow. It is in Distress inks as well, so it doesn't really surprise me that in the oxide version it's very strong, but just something to be aware of when you're using that color. When you put it down, it is a very pigmented color. So when I was looking at the stencil, they have like a couple of little just random circles and things like that. And so I thought, oh, well, that'll be cute. I'll make them blue because, I love blue. And then it just was not enough blue for me. So I ended up making a couple of the leaves blue as well. And I think it turned out fine because it gives, you know, some color variation and kind of breaks up these big pinkish purple flowers. And then I started with my lightest distressings. Now you saw how many I showed you that we're going to be using. The ones that I'm using for shading color, like the colors to shade them. So for like these leaves, I'm putting down Twisted Citron, but then I'm going to add in Mowed Lawn so that there is a little bit of a darker color in there. So now we're done with this part. And you can see it is very pretty. It's a very pretty background just being stenciled. But we're going to kind of like take it up a notch, you know? We're going to get fancy with it. So here I'm using a number 2 round brush, and I'm just going to take clean water and I'm going to go over the entire petal. Even though there's a line in between it, even though there's designs, don't worry about it. We're going to cover it all up. And then I always, just because of the way that I enjoy watercolor, I'm going to go out of the lines just a little bit with the clean water so that way anywhere the paper is wet, the pigment's going to flow. And so it makes it look more organic. So then after that, I'm just going to pick up some more picked raspberry, drop that in, and then I'm going to pick up some wilted violet and drop that in. And you could do this, you know, with any combination of colors. You know, with a pink base, you could add in orange, you could add in yellow, you could add in red, you could even add in blue. Like basically the only color you can't add in is green because that'll make brown because they're complementary colors. But this is just so super fast and easy to do. And watercolor looks really ugly when it's wet. Like you can see these two that I just did on the right hand side here, not so pretty. But the other two that are up top that are already starting to move are starting to become very pretty. So don't think about it, guys. Don't overwork it. Just wet down the area. If you want to go a little outside the lines with some clean water, you can. You don't have to. This would still look just as pretty as if it was a super tight design and less flowy. But you want to put down enough water that your pigment's going to flow. Drop in a couple of, you know, scoop up some of your regular color, drop that in. Drop in a, you know, a little bit of a darker or a kind of like an accent color, and then move on. We're not spending a lot of time on this because you don't have to. I promise you, you'll end up with very pretty results. Just go with it. Just let it go. I can't sing or I would bust into the Frozen song, but you know what I'm saying. It's going to be playing in your head right now. Sing that song and then let it go. So I showed you one of the flowers in regular speed, and now from here on out, I am going to speed it up because I'm doing a full background. It is a little bit time consuming. Not that it took forever. I think total I had like an hour's worth of footage, and that was from the beginning of the card to the end of the card. So this part took maybe, I don't know, maybe 25, 30 minutes. But because I don't really have to think about it, like it's kind of relaxing and I can just kind of get lost in thought while I'm doing my thing, making pretty things. And isn't that the whole point of card making, honestly? So, with that being said, we had talked the last time we had talked about Create and just some of the things that had happened there. And so I told you that I could not find coffee anywhere. Like coffee was elusive, except for the hotel coffee. The hotel coffee was readily available, which I was not. I wanted Dunkin' Donuts. That's what I wanted. And I was willing to settle for Starbucks. Now people have asked me, you guys have asked me in the comments, like, what is it about Dunkin' Donuts that I love? Like, they have a lighter roast, so it's almost like a breakfast blend, and that's my bag. That's totally what makes me happy, because Starbucks is far too bitter for me. So when I go to Starbucks, I don't even get a regular coffee. I get a, the white chocolate mocha, because it's just not, I can't drink their regular coffee. So speaking of Starbucks, while I was sitting at the table at Create, so this is day 2, okay? Day 2 of only drinking hotel coffee and one Starbucks. This is my situation, just so you can kind of understand where I'm at. And this young woman comes over. Her name is Cheyenne. And I met Cheyenne when I did Create in 2017. So she and I kind of already knew each other. Hey, how you doing? How you been? And so her, and she had her husband with her, which was totally adorable. Like, I love. but relationships where people are like supporting each other in their hobbies. And so I think it's amazing that he came with her, and he actually did a couple of make and takes himself. Here for the centers of the flowers, I'm using that mustard seed and then carved pumpkin. That's the secondary color I'm adding in. So she sat down and, you know, we did the make and take, and then, but her husband Tyler wasn't with her. She was by herself Saturday morning. And so she gets done with the make and take, and someone else sits down, and she's standing in front of the table on her phone, and she's ordering coffee. Okay, guys, she's totally ordering coffee right in front of my eyeballs. And I say to her, excuse me. I have no shame, guys. I have no shame. And I'm like, excuse me, I am probably overstepping here, and I apologize, but I'm desperate. Are you ordering coffee? And she said, yes. I said, if I give you money, could you possibly have that person bring me some coffee? And she was like, yeah, absolutely, which was so gracious of her. It was just so wonderful. And so her genius, wonderful, loving, supporting husband went to the Starbucks for she and I. And I like, after I realized she would order it for us, I like tapped Danielle and I was like, hey, yo, Cheyenne's husband's totally willing to give us some coffee. What do you want? And she was like, are you kidding me? Who brought these angels here? And I was like, I know, thank Jesus. So he did. He brought me my white chocolate mocha, and I was a much happier camper. So thank them. Oh, thank them so much. I was so grateful, even though it was Starbucks. Like, I'm so grateful. So I'm moving on to the smaller. I'm kind of doing them dually because the bigger leaves I am shading with peacock feathers. And then the secondary color I'm adding in is salty ocean. For the smaller leaves, I'm shading them with salty ocean. And then the secondary color I'm adding in is blueprint sketch. By the time all is said and done, I realize that I truly love the blueprint sketch so much. I go back and add them to the peacock feathers leaves as well. Just FYI on that. So she brings, they bring me, he brings me, however you want to word it, this wonderful concoction of Starbucks, and it is still not Dunkin'. But I am very, very grateful nonetheless, because I'm not one to, you know, look a gift horse in the mouth. You know what I'm saying? So then, like, we make it through the rest of the day, we get done at the end, and so Greg from Concord and Ninth, he and I have previously met. I am very good friends with Angie, who's the other portion of Concord and Ninth, and Greg and I have a very little sister big brother relationship. Like, basically, when we get together, we just, you know, tease each other and make fun of each other the whole time in a very loving way. And he really is wonderful, and I enjoy spending time with him. So I had said, like, he had a car, I didn't have a car. I was like, can you possibly take me to get some Dunkin' Donuts coffee, because it's been too long and I'm desperate. I need the coffee. And he was like, yeah, I'll just go get you one. I was like, are you sure? And he was like, no, so I tried to give him money and he refuses to take my money. And then he delivers me this wonderful 20-ounce, this beautiful coffee with double cream and double sugar. Yes, I said it. Don't you judge me. And I was just over the moon excited. And Eric was a little like, you posted this Instagram that said you never loved anybody more, and I bring you coffee all the time, which is true. And I love all the people who bring me coffee. That's where I'm living at. I just love them. But Greg really got me in a pinch. Him and Cheyenne and Tyler, and they saved my lives all weekend. So I'm very grateful to them. So while I was cutting this, I realized that I didn't have to, I would have extra. My game plan was to make the card on the left, okay, with all of that. And you saw me freak out a little bit that I had cut it short, and it turns out I just needed to turn it. Ha ha ha. But anyway, I realized that I would have enough left over to do a second card, which is how we ended up with this twofer that we've got going on here. I wanted matching matchy cardstock for my sentiment and this little strip that I put at top. And I have to put the strip at the top, honestly, because I love things that are framed in. It just feels so unfinished to me if I don't. So one way that you can do that is by using your ink blender. I wanted really bold color, so I'm just going to flip my ink pad over and just smush it right onto my cardstock. This is Nina 80-pound solar white. We painted on Canson, by the way. And I always have everything linked, you guys know. So that the coffee saga was a struggle for me all weekend. And then several of you sent me messages or left me comments that said, hey, there was a Dunkin' Donuts like right down the street from where you were at. Well, let me tell you something. Google must not be on their game, because when I Googled it, it told me the nearest Dunkin' Donuts was 20 minutes away. So I don't know where the Dunkin' Donuts is that is close to the Nationwide Conference Center, but I am going to need like specific addresses for the next time. Well, if there's a next time I go to create, so that I can make sure that I make my way there. I honestly looked into whether or not I could like Uber Eats or DoorDash Dunkin' Donuts to my room. That's how desperate I was for coffee, guys. And it turns out that I guess it's not enough money. They must not do it because it's not enough money. But if you're a DoorDash or Uber Eats delivery person, please know that I would tip well. I would tip extraordinarily well for my coffee. Anywho, back to the card. So I cut the script because in white, and then I put it on the little die cuts that we already colored. And now I'm just trying to get everything kind of lined up so that I know what I'm doing. The only part about this that I wish that I could change is I kind of wish I had like a flower or something to put up there with my large, because I don't think it looks bad. I just would have liked an extra flower. You know what I'm saying? So here, Distress inks are like, you can stamp with them. And you can stamp with oxides. Distress inks don't stamp great. Like, they're kind of splotchy. But Distress oxides stamp beautifully. So I actually can just stamp my sentiments matching in the same color that I colored this cardstock with. And it's going to stamp super pretty. Now, I had never used these stamps before. This because stamp set was new to me. So I did have to stamp it a couple of times just to make sure that I got good coverage. But ultimately, I think it stamped just as well as any other pigment ink that I would have used. So I just trimmed those down into little labels, and now I'm going to start building the card. So pretty much everything is going to be flat except for the sentiment. The because and the banners are all going to be popped up on foam, and then the watercolor panels and the little like framing strips will all be flat to my card base. So yeah, I think that I think that DoorDash or Uber Eats or whoever the people are, I think they should be willing, like they should ask you, like, how much are you willing to tip? And I would say generously. I would tip you generously to bring me coffee, to just keep me plied with coffee all day long, because I was so sad. And I was sad in 17 when I didn't have coffee then either. Or maybe I just need to rent a car when I go down there, like just so I can scoot about. I suppose I could have Ubered myself to the Dunkin' Donuts, but because the schedule is so like just packed the entire time you're down there, that almost isn't really feasible. I mean, I guess I could have. Maybe in the future I will. But nonetheless, I'm super grateful to the people who were supporting my coffee addiction by helping me out and just bringing me the coffee. Because yeah, even if it was Starbucks, I was still so grateful for it. It was better than what I had, what my other options were. So yeah, just putting these down with the Tombow Mono multi-glue. And doesn't it look so much better framed in? I don't know. I feel like it does. I probably could have gone a little bit thinner with the strip that I put up top. But the because is so large, which I love. I love that, I love scripty die cuts. You guys know that just from looking at my card designs. So I probably could have gone a little bit thinner, but I felt like because did anybody else sing that in their head? Because I totally did. Well, I also kind of sang it out loud. Anyway, I don't even really like that movie, guys. I know like The Wizard of Oz is a classic. But I don't even really like that movie. Anyway, this is just like the most rambling, sidetracked voiceover I have done in a really, really long time. But anyway, because die cut is so large, I just felt like it made more sense to have a thicker strip. So here I'm trying to put the I'm thinking of you on there, and very much like my card earlier in the week, where the G was hanging down in spring. The S that is hanging down here is just really messing with my mojo. So I'm going to cut it, and then I'm just going to stagger it so that the I'm thinking is tucked up underneath there, and then of you is tucked up underneath that. And I liked that layout much better than just trying to keep it in one strip. I'm going to add some clear sequins, just, I mean, for some shine, but also to kind of help fill in that white space at the top, as well as tie in the sentiment to kind of like the rest of the card design. And then I always like to, so once I get them down, I use Tombow Mono multi-glue for that. I also have the Ranger multi-matte medium, I think, which dries matte. And that one's really good as well. It's lost somewhere on my desk, I'm going to be quite honest, because it's a disaster. I mean, it's a war zone out here. But so I put that down with that, and then I always like to fill mine in with some glossy accents just to make sure that they stay where I put them. And it's not even, you can't even really see it after it's dry, but it just really adheres those sequins there. And then I'm going to go in with some clear Wink of Stella. I put that in the centers of the flowers, and then I also put it over the white portion of the because. I didn't really notice it picking up any of my Distress Oxide when I was going over it, but because it does work with water and there is moisture in the clear Wink of Stella pens, that is something, you know, just to be aware of in general, so that it doesn't move your pigment, or you aren't picking pigment up from one area and moving it to another. And then that's it. That's both cards. So thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.